Hello, I'm Sasha of Sasha Makes Cards, and welcome to this month's YouTube hop for a Cherry on Top crafts. The theme for this month's hop is fun in the sun, so I am making a sunny summer themed card using the Summer Friends Lawn Fawn stamp set, as well as the coordinating Lawn Cuts die set, and the 6x6 Gleeful Gradients Lawn Fawn paper pad. Now, I did end up using some additional products as I went about the process of making this card. However, in the beginning, these three things if you include the die cuts, are really all I knew that I was going to be using. I ended up using some pastes, which was pretty fun. I mixed some pastes together, and I also ended up using a 12 by 12 paper sheet, which I will get into that shortly, but this isn't what I started with initially. This card was one of those projects where I went in not really knowing anything. I knew when I got the stamp set that I was going to be using it for the YouTube pop for the Fun in the Sun theme, but I didn't actually know what kind of a card I was going to make with this stuff. I started by first stamping the images onto an alcohol marker friendly paper using an alcohol marker friendly ink. The ink I used was the Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. I decided to go with the 3 drink images included in the stamp set because there are the coconut, the lemonade, the other drink, and then there's a strawberry, watermelon, pineapple. I decided to go with the 3 drinks. So I stamped those, and then I stamped on some of the smaller faces onto the drinks so that they were happy little drinks, enjoying their fun in the sun. You can see I ended up stamping the coconut twice. That's because after I was done stamping the images, I took the paper out of my Missy to use an acrylic stamping block to stamp on the faces. I don't know why I didn't just do it in the Misty right away. I thought for some reason it would be easier with the stamping block, but then it didn't stamp properly. So I put it back into the Misty and re-stamped the coconut and stamped the faces on all of the drinks. I also stamped the sentiment, "Yay, it's summertime," and then right before I put my stamp set away, I decided I wanted to stamp the speech bubble and add some little sentiments into that. Something I really like about Lawn Fawn stamp sets is they often include the little speech bubbles with smaller text sentiments that you can make the little animals say, or, I mean, these aren't animals, but the little creatures. I guess you could categorize these as creatures in a way. But I really like it when you can make it look like they're saying something. It's really cute, but it's not something I do too often. So I decided to stamp the speech bubble stamp image 3 times and then put the sentiments "Happy Summer," "Cheers to You," and then "I'm coconuts for you" in each speech bubble. Now this part's kind of exciting for me. I fussy cut all of my stamped images. I don't usually buy the die cuts for my stamps. I usually just fussy cut. I enjoy fussy cutting. However, for this particular stamp set, I wanted to get the die cuts because I thought with the little arms and the little legs, it would just be so much easier to die cut it rather than fussy cut it. I could, of course, fussy cut it. I would just use my X-Acto knife to cut around the little arms, but I didn't want to have to worry about accidentally ripping off their their limbs while fussy cutting. So I decided to get the coordinating die cuts for the stamp set and just die cut it, which was pretty nice. I do like it when I get to use the coordinating die cuts for the stamps that I have. So using my Spellbinders Platinum Scout die cutting machine, I first ran the little drinks through and then I die cut all of the speech bubbles. I did fussy cut the sentiment by hand. I did that near the end, but I die cut everything else, and it really does make it a lot easier. It is quite nice. To hold the die cuts into place, I did just use my version of low tack tape, which is some cheap painter's tape. I find it works well. As long as you don't rip it off, you're good to go. Once I had die cut all of the images for my card, I then very quickly colored the happy little drinks using some alcohol markers. I kept the coloring very simple, just using 2 to 3 colors for each color combination. Since I was going to be using a piece of paper from the Gleeful Gradient paper pad, the gradient that goes from yellow to pink, which I thought kind of looked like a sunset, I kept with a similar color theme when I was coloring the drinks. So I used pink, yellow, and then a brown for the coconut, as well as blue for the glasses. I also used a little bit of a white Jelly Roll pen to add some highlights to the images that I colored. For the background of my Fun in the Sun card, like I already said, I used one of the pieces of paper with the very nice gradient on it from the Gleeful Gradients paper pack. I'm using the one that I think kind of looks like a nice sunset and matches the images that I just colored. I trimmed that to measure my US A2 size card, which is 4¼ by 5½ inches, as it's going to be the primary background. But then at the very bottom of the card, I decided to kind of make it look like a sandy beach. When I first started, I didn't know what I was going to do with this card. I knew I was going to use the paper pack, the Summer Friends stamp set. But then as I got going, and the more I looked at it, the more it looked like a sunset. They're happy little drinks. They're having fun in the sun. I thought, why not put them on a beach? So after I cut out the background, the main background, I then grabbed a scrap piece of craft cardstock. I was just going to use this as the sand. But then I was looking at it and I was thinking, it's not really that sandy. If you go to a sandy beach that looks like this, I feel like it just looks kind of sad. So I tried to make it look a little more like a sandy beach, and I decided to grab some Distress Opaque Texture Paste as well as some Lunar Paste from Simon Hurley in the color Cookie Dough, or the shade Cookie Dough, and mix those two together. My idea was with the texture paste, it might help it look textured, kind of like sand, and then the Cookie Dough color would add the more sandy coloring to the texture paste. Plus, with the Lunar Paste, it also adds a little bit of shimmer, which I think is really nice, especially if you go to a nice looking beach. the sand will be a little bit shimmery in the sun. So I think it gave it a really nice effect. But I used my Grip Media Matte, which is the matte that actually comes with my glass matte work surface. I think you can also purchase it separately. Combined using a plastic palette knife, the two pastes on the mat, and then just haphazardly using the palette knife to put it onto the craft piece of cardstock, kind of stippling it to make it look sandy. I then used my heat gun to dry it a little bit quicker. To further add to the idea that this is 3 happy little drinks enjoying their fun in the sun during sunset on the beach, I decided to add just a small strip of some checkered cardstock to act as a picnic blanket, a tablecloth, at the very bottom of the card, so it goes sunset, the horizon with the sand, and then their picnic blanket. The paper I used for this was the Fun plus Sunshine 12 by 12 paper from the Simple Stories Summer Snapshots collection. This is actually one of the papers that was included in the 2025 Summer Cherry Box, because I was looking for some kind of checkered gingham picnic-like cardstock, and I found this piece, and it goes pretty well. Plus, the color matches really well, because the thing is, the sand at the bottom does kind of cover up a bit of the sunset color. It covers up most of the pink, but I still want there to be some of the pinkish color in there, so the checkered picnic blanket at the bottom helps to bring that back in. And then to finish everything off, I glued my sunny gradient background onto the card, and then the sand and the checkered cardstock strip for the picnic blanket at the bottom. I used the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue everything down, and my Tim Holtz mini guillotine trimmer to trim off the excess of the sandy beach and the little picnic blanket cardstock at the very bottom of the card. This is also the point at which I fussy cut out the main part of my sentiment that says, "Yay, it's summertime." Now, because the sentiments didn't come with coordinating die cuts beside the speech bubbles, which of course has the smaller sentiments inside of it, I just used my regular pair of spring assisted scissors to fussy cut it out and then glue it at the top of the card. As for the little happy drinks, I just arranged them in a happy little way, dancing kind of on the sandy beach with the little speech bubbles above their heads. I arranged it so that each drink is saying their own little speech bubble sentiment. The pink drink on the end says cheers to you. The coconut, of course, says I'm coconuts for you. And then the lemonade on the other end says happy summer. And that is the completed card project. Thank you so much for watching. I really hoped you liked this fun in the sun themed card project featuring these adorable little drinks from Fawn. Be sure to check out the description below for a list of the products I used to create this card, as well as to hop along with the rest of the design team for a chance to win a $25 gift card to shop at a Cherry on Top Crafts. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.